Today we're going to be reviewing the Glock 43 and helping to answer the question of whether or not the Glock 43 is the perfect concealed carry pistol on the market today, which of course is arguable. But let's talk about how we got to the Glock 43 first, and then we'll go through some details and some accuracy, and then I'll share some opinions on the pistol itself. To begin, there's been an evolution in the concealed carry market with a number of different models that have come out over the past 5 to 10 years. Some of the major models that first came out as far as single stack magazines in the 380 and then 9mm. One of the more popular ones initially that came out was the Ruger LCP. When it first came out, I had one like most people did. The things I didn't like about it is I didn't like the grip, I didn't like the trigger, I didn't like the accuracy of the pistol. It just, to me, wasn't reliable enough in all these areas for me to want to continue to hold on to it. So the next evolution I had, which many people did, was to the Smith & Wesson Shield. And the Smith & Wesson Shield is a good concealed carry. Again, it's a 9mm single stack option from Smith & Wesson. The knock on the Smith & Wesson Shield, at least for me, was the fact that I just didn't like the trigger in the pistol. And as a result of that, in addition to having to buy the pistol, I also had to buy an aftermarket Apex trigger. And there's some gunsmithing that takes place where you have to float out the rear sight, which is not easy to do for most people on a Smith & Wesson Shield. So therefore, you're going to have to incur the cost, most people will, of both the Apex trigger as well as the actual gunsmithing to install the trigger. Once that was done, the Smith & Wesson Shield was very accurate for me, but I had two problems still with the pistol. One is the bore access of the pistol was still relatively high, so it was snappy for me, especially when I was firing good concealed carry rounds, so it really wasn't that comfortable to shoot despite the accuracy. The other part was, in order to make it really controllable for me, I had to put an aftermarket grip on it, similar to my $4 grip jobs for Glock. And again, that's something I didn't want to give up in a concealed carry pistol because I'm trying to keep the profile of the pistol as slim as possible. And by simply fattening the grip up and making all these changes, I'm starting to creep into other areas where I could just go into double stack anyways. So Glock's first introduction in the single stack market for this was the Glock 42, which we have here, which was the 380 model, which many people bought when they initially came out because they were waiting for Glock to come out with these single stack models. However, they did the 380 before the 9mm. And because of that, the gun, although similar, like all Glocks are, it was smaller. It was smaller to handle the 380 load. And as a result of that, many people consider the 380 round to be an inferior round or of not enough compromised power to be able to carry it. Now, I don't want to get into a caliber argument. All pistols are underpowered, but at 380, the 380 round, it is definitely at the very low end of the power range that you would carry within one of these pistols. So everybody was eagerly awaiting the Glock 43, and when it came out, obviously people bought up quite a bit of these, and here's one for, as an example. A couple of the things I really like about the Glock 43 is, first off, the grip. The grip on this pistol is perfect, and in many respects, it follows what I talked about in the Glock $4 grip job of how to create a perfect recoil pad into the actual meat of your hand as opposed to into your joint. So if you've ever fired, for example, a larger Glock and felt it to be uncomfortable, I would highly encourage you to fire a Glock 43 because the recoil impulse is going to be different. And for many people who have smaller to medium-sized hands, it's actually going to be very comfortable for you to fire this as compared to other Glocks. So don't make that comparison as to your previous experience with Glocks, bigger Glocks, compared to what these are as well. One of the other things that people commonly talk about is the magazine capacity. Naturally, being single stack, you're limiting the amount of rounds you can carry. A Glock 19, you have 15 rounds, but when it came to the 42 and the 43, it dropped down to a standard 6-round magazine, which again is comparable to any revolver that's out today. Actually, many of the revolvers, the smaller frames, actually only hold 5. There are aftermarket parts out there. One of the most popular ones that I've used in the past and continue to use, for example, come from Mag Guts. Mag Guts actually creates a new follower and spring that you put in that allows you to now hold 7 rounds in both the Glock 42 as well as the Glock 43 magazines. So if you're worried about getting that extra round in, you can accomplish that through add-in springs and followers from companies like Mag Guts, which work really well. So instead of having 6+1, now you can have 7+1 depending upon how you carry the pistol. Another thing I like that Glock provides with the 43s are the finger extensions. I do like these on the 43 because I tend to carry relatively hot loads for my concealed carry loads, and for me it just works on the controllability, and I'll be able to show you that in a moment when we go through some of the accuracy results I've received from it. As far as weight of the pistols themselves, so when you're looking at the pistols on the table, the only one that's really missing from the Glock family in true comparison is the Glock 26. The Glock 26 is nothing more than a shorter version of the Glock 19, but it's the same width. But in many cases, one of the first things you're going to look for in a concealed carry pistol is width, because even small changes in width can make a significant difference in how you carry and the performance of the pistol. But as you can see here, depending upon how I line it up, the width differences are considerable, even between the 42 and the 43. And one of the things I really liked about the 43 is the 42, this actual grip was, to me, just a little bit too small, and it actually shows up in my accuracy of firing the 42 between that and the 43. The 43, to me, being an average size hand, is really, really excellent for me in comparison. But first off, when you look at the size differences, when you stack them up, there is a noticeable difference between the 42 and the 43. It's marginal compared to the bigger pistols, but when it comes to concealed carry, even little bits of differences in weight as well as size could be a big difference in between carrying a handgun or not. So when you look at the weight of these 3 pistols, let's start with the 42 at the low end. So at the low end, this is about a 12-ounce pistol. Fully loaded, it comes in at about 1 pound. So that's one of the advantages you have of the Glock 42 is it's the lightest of these options. Compared to the Glock 43 that comes in right about 1 pound, or loaded, it comes in about 1 pound 5 ounces. So the major difference is about 4 ounces in weight between the 43 and the 42. And then the final comparison, of course, you can use this to is the Glock 19, which many people consider to be the most versatile handgun. Unloaded coming in at 1.5 pounds, and fully loaded coming at 1 pound 15 ounces, close to 2 pounds. So there is a big difference, obviously, in weight. What you give up, of course, is the round count that you have, which is basically about half of what you would get in a Glock 19. But this is what concealed carry is all about. You have to carry something that's ultimately going to fit and won't paint for you to be able to make problems for you if you're concealed carrying. Now, as far as loads that I typically recommend carrying for concealed carry, the typical rounds that I have are the Spirit Gold Dot, which are the Plus P loads. I also run these the same jacket of hollow points made by Underwood Ammunition, and of course Federal Premium makes an excellent round as well, which is the HST loads that they use as well. So all 3 of these are good rounds. What I recommend is, if you do utilize these rounds, because some of them are hotter than others, make sure you practice enough with them in order to become proficient with them. If you start shooting really lower rounds and then ultimately have to rely on the hotter loads, if you were ever in one of those situations, you want to make sure you're proficient with both. Now that we've talked about size, let's talk about accuracy and performance out of these pistols. So one of the great things about the Glock 43 for me is accuracy. It's arguably one of the most accurate pistols I have, and it's a concealed carry pistol. So normally when you have a smaller pistol, smaller grip, less weight, you tend to give up in accuracy to gain, it's part of the process of what you do here. But in the Glock 43, you can see the performance I've received out of this pistol. And we're going to show this in comparison to some other pistols I have as well. But the first one is at 30 feet, and then the second group is at 50 feet. And again, it was painting very tight, very acceptable for the Glock 43. Moving on to 70 feet, it opens up a little bit, but not a lot. compared to the groups that I received at 50 feet. And then of course I shot one group one-handed at 20 feet. Again, acceptable group, all within the zone. So as far as the Glock 43 is concerned, the performance of the pistol, at least for me, is excellent. And it's excellent because I compare this to the performance of other pistols. So for example, the Glock 42, which is a 380 model, if you compare side by side at 30 feet and then at 50 feet, you can see that the groups that I fire out of the 43 are considerably better than out of the Glock 42. So it's literally night and day between the two. And then when I take that out to 70 feet and then 20 feet one-handed, again, the same performance problems. But again, just that little difference in size between the 42 and 43, for myself at least, with average size hands, this is the major difference between the two. It makes a considerable difference for me from an accuracy perspective. Now, removing the Glock 42 out of the equation, how does it perform, the Glock 43, compared to, for example, my Glock 19 and my Glock 17, which are larger frame pistols that you would think inherently would shoot more accurately? So the first one is at 30 feet. So these are the groups I received out of the Glock 17, the Glock 19, and of course the Glock 43. And as you can see in this instance, they're all pretty much equal. So I'm not really giving up much in accuracy to carry the 43 over my Glock 17 and my Glock 19. Now moving this out to 50 feet, which is the lower end here, compared to the performance out of my Glock 17 and 19, again, pretty equal performance. So what I'm getting out of my 43 rivals what I get out of my 17 and my 19. And then of course taking this out finally to 70 feet, which is the longest distance I had here at the top, compared to my performance at 70 feet with the Glock 17, again, it rivals my Glock 17 performance, which is the pistol I tend to shoot the most and have the most practice with. So from an accuracy perspective, at least for myself, I find that the performance on the accuracy side alone from the Glock 43 is exceptional and really does well for me. And for this reason alone, I don't carry the 42 anymore. I just don't get near the kind of performance I do out of the 43, and of course the 43 is a better powered round anyways, firing at 9mm. So that goes to help answer the question, at least for me, which is the Glock 43 the best concealed carry pistol on the market today? At least for me, it is. This is why I own it. This is my go-to concealed carry pistol. The accuracy's there. I'm happy with the power of the 9mm, especially in the appropriate rounds. And compared to a lot of the other options I have in the market today, to me it's just the best value all the way around, from a performance perspective as well as what I'm getting out of the pistol itself. There are certainly other options on the market today. I know I didn't talk about a lot of them, but I want to talk about the major ones that people have evolved to get to the 43. But to me, this is a winner. This is my concealed carry pistol. I bet my life on it, and until something comes out better, this is my go-to pistol. Hope this helps. If you like our channel, please subscribe on YouTube, and thanks for watching.